Welcome to GamezMadeEZ. I'm Dan Z. Today, we go over the 3 to 7 player game, 7 Wonders Leaders, 7 Wonders Cities, and 7 Wonders Babel. These are the 3 expansions for the base game, 7 Wonders, by Antoine Boza and produced by Repo Productions. This fast, civilization-building card drafting game is very popular, as attested by its 3 expansions. I'll be teaching the game with all expansions included. Be aware that the Babel expansion has 2 modules within, so essentially there'll be 4 expansions that I'll be teaching. I will denote through the video which expansion is active. But enough talk, let's open the box and set up the game. Take all cards and separate them into their respective piles. The Wonder cards, Age cards from all 3 ages. Age cards are denoted by their player number symbol on the bottom. White Leader cards, Black City cards, and Purple Guild cards. The large cards are Great Projects, and the tiles are Babel tiles. Shuffle the Wonder deck and deal 1 to each player. The wonder appearing on the card and its orientation determines which wonder the player will control this game. Each player turns in their wonder card for their matching wonder board and places it in front of them with the appropriate side, A or B, facing up. If this is your first game, it is recommended that you play with all A sides. Once experienced, players are welcome to pick the side they want to play or even the wonder they want to play with. Return the wonder cards to the box. Within each age deck, remove cards that do not match the number of players in the game. For example, we're setting up for a 4-player game, so we'll take out all cards with 5+, 6+, and 7+, and return them to the box. 3+ and 4+ cards will be shuffled together. Shuffle the Purple Guild cards and draw 2 more than the number of players, 6 in our case, and shuffle them into the Age cards for Age 3. Return the rest to the box. Separate the Black City cards into their respective ages, and shuffle each pile. Draw cards from each age equal to the number of players, and shuffle them into their corresponding age decks. Return the rest to the box. Shuffle the deck of Leader cards, and deal 4 to each player. Each player looks over their 4 cards and picks 1 to keep, passing the remaining 3 to the player on their right. Each player then picks 1 leader from the 3 just passed to them, and passes the remaining 2 to the player on their right. From these 2, pick 1 additional leader, and then pass the remaining 1 to your right. This will result in all players having drafted a hand of 4 leader cards. If playing with the Tower of Babel, place the Babel board in the middle of the play area with the appropriate side up based on the number of players, and then draft Babel tiles. Mix up the Babel tiles and deal 3 to each player. Each player picks 1, passing the other 2 to his right. From the 2 received, pick 1 to keep and pass the remainder to your right. This process will leave all players with 3 drafted Babel tiles. Place the coins and conflict tokens in the center of the table. Keep all other tokens out of the way, but accessible. Not all token types will be used in every game, but have them ready to use if needed. Each player receives their starting money of 6 coins. If you are not playing with the leader cards, then all players start with only 3 coins instead of 6. And your game is now set up. 7 Wonders is won by the player who gains the most victory points, by leading their ancient civilization to greatness. To do so, they must exploit their natural resources, take part in the eternal march of progress, develop their commercial relationships, and assert their military might. This is done in a series of turns that take place over 3 ages. Each turn will center around a player's current hand of cards. Let's look at the cards in detail before learning how to use them. Each card represents a structure or leader that is influencing your civilization. There are 9 types of cards indicated by their color. Brown are all resources, gray manufactured goods, blue civilian structures, green scientific structures, yellow commercial structures, red military structures, purple guilds, black city structures, and white leader cards. Every card has 4 main sections. Its title to the bottom left, its construction cost to the upper left, its effect across the top, and the remaining being the beautiful artwork done by Miguel Coimbra. If the upper left construction cost is blank, like on this Glassworks, Altar, and Marketplace, then there is no cost for building this structure. Otherwise, a player is required to provide the proper resources and/or coins required to construct the building or leader. This barracks requires the player to provide a single ore. The aqueduct requires the player to provide 3 stone. The Capitol requires 2 coins, 2 clay, 2 stone, a glass, and a papyrus to construct. Some cards' construction cost may be completely ignored if, in an earlier age, its prerequisite card, listed by its cost, was built in the city. For example, because I've built the altar, the temple can be built without the need of wood, clay, or glass, because altar is listed by the construction cost as a prerequisite. Similarly, I could build both the archery range and the laboratory at no cost because I've built the workshop. When a card is constructed, the card is placed above their wonder board, grouped with any other cards of similar color, like so. All brown and gray cards are tucked under the upper left corner of your wonder board. All player cards now provide your civilization with its icon listed on top. Most resources to build structures will be provided by these cards you've placed under the corner of your wonder board. For example, I'm playing the civilization of Giza, and I've previously built this loom and timber yard. I want to build this library. The library requires 2 stone and 1 cloth to construct. 1 stone is provided by the city itself, as it is listed on the wonder board. The second from my timber yard, which can provide either 1 stone or 1 wood. The loom provides the cloth I need, and thus I'm able to build the library in Giza. Next turn, I want to build this school to go with my new library. The school requires 1 wood and 1 papyrus. My timber yard provides the 1 wood. However, I do not provide myself with papyrus. This is when I look to my neighbors for help. The resources in the neighboring cities immediately to your left and right can be accessed through commerce. Each resource bought costs you 2 coins, which are paid to the providing city. Looking to my neighboring civilizations, I have Ephesus to my left and Babylon to my right. Babylon doesn't provide papyrus. Ephesus, the city itself, does, as it's listed on the wonder board, so I can send them 2 coins for their production of papyrus. This now gives me everything I need to successfully build the school in Giza. Buying the papyrus from Ephesus doesn't prevent that player from using it, nor can the player deny your payment and the uses of their resources. You may also buy as many resources as you have money for, and that can be provided by your neighbors. You may even buy resources from both your neighbors to fulfill a cost. Focusing on my scientific structures, I want to now build this laboratory to go with my library and school. It requires 2 clay and a papyrus. I don't have any of the 3 resources I require. My neighbors do. I can send 4 coins to Ephesus in exchange for 1 papyrus and 1 brick from its clay pool, and then send another 2 coins to Babylon in exchange for the brick provided by the city. I would not be allowed to send 4 coins to Babylon to use its 1 brick icon twice. Each icon can only be bought once per turn. With this general idea of how cards are paid for, we can now focus on the 4 possible actions that can be taken with each card. Every turn of 7 wonders requires each player to simultaneously pick a card from their hand and place it face down in front of them. Once all players have chosen a card, the players perform one of 4 actions with this card. The most common action is to construct the card. This is simply done by revealing the card, placing it into your civilization, and playing any costs that are associated with it in the manner we discussed earlier. Be aware that no civilization may ever have 2 of the same building. Another action is to instead construct your wonder. Wonders are monumental structures that require multiple turns to construct. The bottom portion of your wonder board is divided into parts. Each part represents a portion of your wonder being built. The wonder must be built in order from left to right, and the cost for each section is listed on the board. To build a portion of your wonder, you take your chosen card, and instead of revealing it, you keep it face down and tuck it under the section of wonder you're building. You then pay the cost listed on the wonder board. If you can't provide all the resources yourself, you are free to use commerce with your neighbors as usual. Once a portion is built, the effect listed is now in effect for the player. You are not required to build your wonder at all through the course of the game, but you pass up on possible victory points and other effects that the wonders provide. Instead of constructing the building or constructing a wonder, you always have the option to just discard the card to gain 3 coins. The card is placed face down in the discard pile, and you take 3 coins from the bank and place it on your wonder board. The final action you may take with a card is to discard it to build a tile of Babel. Pick one of your Babel tiles and replace your chosen card with it face down. Discard the card face down to the discard pile. After all other player actions have been resolved, players playing Babel tiles reveal them and place them onto the Babel board, starting with the space marked with the clockwise arrow. Each tile placed afterwards goes into the next available space in clockwise order. If more than one player is building a tile this turn, the tiles are placed in order based on the number printed on the tiles, with lower numbers being placed before higher numbers. If all spaces have been filled, tiles are placed over older tiles, maintaining the clockwise order. Babel tiles change the rules of the game for all players, depending on which tiles are on top. For example, with this tile active, players only need to pay 1 coin instead of 2 when buying brown raw materials from their neighbors. This tile allows all players to construct red military buildings without paying their resource cost. Once a tile is covered, it stops affecting the game, and the new tile on top takes effect. So at most, only 3 tiles, or 4 in a higher player game, are in effect at one time. In addition to the rule changes to all players, the players themselves are rewarded for contributing to the Tile of Babel. If at the end of the game, a player has contributed all 3 tiles to the tower, they gain 10 victory points. Contributing 2 tiles is 5 points. Contributing just 1 is only 2. Knowing how the cards work and the 4 different actions you can do with them allows us now to go over the turn structure and how the 3 different ages play out. Let's begin Age 1. The start of every age begins with the leader recruitment phase. This turn is played out as every other turn in the game, with each player picking 1 card from their hand and placing it face down. The only exception in this turn is the hand are the leader cards the players haven't played. Once all players have chosen their leader card, each player takes 1 of the 4 actions with this card. They can build or recruit the leader by revealing it, putting it into play and paying its cost. They can tuck it face down and build a wonder with it. They can discard the card for 3 coins, or replace it with one of their Babel tiles, face down, and discard the card. After all other players have played out their actions, all players contributing to the Tile of Babel play their tile to the board. Discarded leaders are removed from the game. Once leader recruitment is complete, a great project is revealed. shuffle up the large Great Project cards for the current age, and randomly reveal one, placing it in the middle of the play area. Place the number of these participation tokens on the card equal to one less than the number of players. Great projects are prestigious buildings that the players work together to build. Every time a player puts a building into their civilization that matches the color of the Great Project, they may pay the additional cost listed on the project. In doing so, they take one of the tokens from the project and put it on their Wonder board. A player may only contribute to the project once when they play the matching colored card. But if the player plays another card that matches in color, they may contribute again as long as they're able to pay the cost again. We'll see what participating in the Great Projects can mean to the players at the end of the age. With leaders recruited and the Great Project announced, we're ready to start the age. Shuffle up the deck for the current age and deal 1 to each player until the deck is exhausted. This will leave all players with 8 cards in their hand. From this first hand of 8, all players choose 1 card and place it face down in front of them. They then place the remaining 7 cards in their hand face down between them and the player to their left. Once all players have picked a card, each player performs one of the 4 actions with it. Build the card, build the wonder, discard for 3 coins, or discard to play a Babel tile. After all actions have been resolved, the next turn begins with all players taking the deck of 7 cards passed to them from the player to their right. From this hand of 7, 1 card is chosen and placed face down, and the remaining 6 are passed to your left. Once all players have chosen a card, all players resolve their chosen action. The next turn begins with the 6 cards you received from the player from your right. This routine of choosing a card and passing the remaining cards continues until the turn when all players are only looking at 2 cards. This is the last turn of the age. All players pick one of the 2 cards to place face down in front of them. The remaining card is placed in the discard pile. Players do not receive coins from this discard. All players resolve the action of their final card, and the age ends. At the end of every age, 2 events are resolved: the Great Project and military conflict. Starting with the Great Project, check to see if all participation tokens have been removed from the project. If so, then the project was successfully built. All players turn in their tokens and receive the bonus listed on the bottom right for each token turned in. Alexandria had built 2 green cards and participated in the cranes both times, earning them 2 tokens. With the successful building of the cranes, Alexandria will now receive 2 of the tokens shown here. These tokens can be turned in later to build a card at no cost. If 1 or more tokens remain on the project at the end of the age, the project failed. At this time, all players without a token suffer the effect listed in the bottom left. In the case of the cranes, any player without a token must lose a brown building they've built in their city. All players with tokens turn them back in and are protected from the negative effects. If at any time a player is unable to suffer the penalty of the project's failure, such as not having a brown building to lose, then they receive a -1, -2, or -3 victory point chip, matching the age they've just finished. In this case, a -1 chip. After the Great Project is resolved, military conflict must be dealt with. Each player counts up the number of shield symbols they have active in their civilization. Most will come from red military buildings, but some may come from leaders, black city cards, or even their wonder, such as the second stage of the Colossus of Rhodes. Once a total is figured, you compare your military strength with your neighbors to each side. The higher player receives a military token worth victory points. The player with the lower number of shields receives a defeat token. If you and your neighbors are tied in strength, then neither player receives anything. For example, Petra counts their military strength as 2. Comparing that with their neighbors, Rhodes has 3, 1 from the guard tower and 2 from the wonder. This means Rhodes receives the +1 victory point marker, and Petra receives a -1 defeat marker. Petra then looks to Halicarnassus, who has 1 military strength. In this case, Petra receives the +1, and Halicarnassus receives -1. After military conflicts have been resolved, Age 2 can begin. Age 2 begins with the leader recruitment phase. All players play around with their leader cards as their hand. Then, an Age 2 Great Project is revealed and tokens placed upon it. The Age 2 cards are shuffled up and dealt out, giving each player 8. Age 2 is played out the same way as Age 1, except that all cards are passed to the right instead of the left. The last turn is still when all players pick 1 card from 2. The last card is discarded. After which, the Great Project is resolved, followed by the military conflicts. Age 3 begins with the final leader recruitment phase. An Age 3 Great Project is announced and prepared. Age 3 cards are shuffled and 8 dealt to each player. Age 3 is played out the same as Age 1, with passing cards to the player on your left, and ending when all players have picked their last card of 2, discarding the other. After which, the Great Project is resolved, and then military conflict. After military is resolved in Age 3, the game ends, and the final scores are tallied. All military tokens are tallied for their victory points. It is possible that this ends up being a negative value. Every 3 coins remaining in a civilization's treasury is 1 victory point. Add points from the stages of your wonder, if any. All blue civilian buildings contribute their victory points. Some yellow commercial buildings score you points. Science icons score in 2 ways. First, each set of the 3 symbols is 7 points. So if you ended the game with 3 tablets, 2 compasses, and 2 gears, you've collected 2 sets of 3 symbols, scoring 14 points. In addition, each science symbol is worth victory points equal to the number of that symbol you have. Ending the game with 3 tablets means that each tablet is worth 3 points, earning you 9 points in tablets. Having 2 compasses means each is 2 for 4 points, and each of your 2 gears is 2 points for another 4, for a total science score of 31. 14 from the sets, 9 from the tablets, 4 from the compasses, and 4 from the gears. Purple guild cards score in many various ways. Many of them score you points based on the buildings your neighbors have built. Some more points may be given by your chosen leaders, and some Black City cards gain you points as well. Lastly, your contributions to the Tile of Babel is recorded. If all 3 of your Babel tiles were used, you score 10. Using 2 scores you 5, and using only 1 scores you 2. The game comes with a score pad to help organize all the various ways of scoring. The player with the highest total of victory points is the winner. In case of a tie, the winner is the player with the most money left over. If still tied, players share the victory. And that is everything you need to play through a game of 7 wonders with the leaders, cities, Tower of Babel, and Great Projects expansions. I only want to spend a few more moments going over some of the common or complex icons you'll find and how they work. It's common for cards to have triangles pointing in 1 direction, 2 directions, or even 3. Cards with 1 triangle only refer to the neighbor to which the card points. For example, this east trading post means you only have to pay 1 coin to buy any of the raw materials from the neighbor to your right. You still pay full price buying from the neighbor to your left. Guilds commonly have 2 triangles pointing both left and right. This refers to both your neighbors. This Traders Guild gives you 1 victory point for each yellow card collectively built in your neighbor's cities. Cards that point to all 3 directions count cards collectively in your neighbor's and your own city. This vineyard, for example, gives you 1 coin for each brown card collectively built by you and both your neighbors. This broken pyramid symbol represents stages of wonders. The arena rewards you 3 gold and 1 victory point for each stage of wonder you have built. The gold you receive as soon as you built the arena. The victory points are calculated at the end of the game. Playing the arena right now would reward me 6 coins because I have built 2 stages of my wonder. If by the end of the game I can finish building the wonder, then I'll be rewarded 3 victory points from the arena. I do not gain the 3 additional coins for building the final stage. This symbol is the debt symbol. When this icon enters play, all the other players must discard this amount of money to the bank or receive a -1 victory point token for each coin they are unwilling or unable to pay. The negative victory point tokens may not be paid off at a later time. This symbol is diplomacy. When this icon enters play, the player takes the diplomacy token and places it on their wonder board. At the end of the age, when military conflict is determined, a player with this token will sit out completely from military conflict. All other players resolve their military conflicts as if this player wasn't at the table at all. This means that players may in fact fight players 2 or even 3 spaces away. If all but 2 players are diplomatic, then the 2 remaining players fight each other only once. At the end of the conflict round, each diplomatic civilization turns in 1 token. A player with diplomacy may not choose to ignore it and fight anyway. This symbol is the spy symbol. At the end of the game, this symbol is treated as a science symbol that is copied from a green card of a neighboring city. Going back to the example of my city with 3 tablets, 2 compasses, and 2 gears, let's say I also had 1 spy. Looking at my neighbors, I can make this mask count as either a tablet or this gear, since those are the symbols offered by my neighbor's green cards. If I possessed 2 spies, I could copy both green cards, 1 for each spy. If I had 3 spies, 1 would be wasted, since my neighbors don't collectively have 3 green cards to spy on. The buildings the symbols are copied from are irrelevant, as long as they come from green science structures. All other symbols you'll come across will be easy to learn, for the game comes with very helpful reference sheets. With just 1 or 2 plays, the iconology will make complete sense and you'll be playing the game with ease. The rules also provide a way to play 7 wonders with only 2 players. I'll leave that for you to learn on your own. Though, if you want to do that, I'd recommend you buy 7 Wonders Duel, a fantastic 2-player version with the same flavor of the real game. It will soon begin an expansion, which means soon I'll have a video out on how to play this with the expansion incorporated. If you want to see how 7 Wonders Duel is played, check out Rodney Smith and watch it played for not only a fantastic how to play video, but also a game playthrough. If you have any questions, feel free to post them below and enjoy your game.